gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, and it's day 3 of the DNC. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Matt McGuire.
Welcome back. Happy Wednesday?
Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. It's what happens when you go back to backs like
yeah,
that.
it's what happens
Friday all of a sudden.
When we skip Monday and we go Tuesday. Welcome back, everyone. If you're watching us for the first time, make sure you like, comment, share. Big news of the day. RFK Jr. dropping out. Started yesterday as a rumor with his running mate. What's her name? Nicole Shanahan, I believe. Appeared on a podcast and said this.
You know, there's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walt's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
So that was yesterday. The two options. And I think we touched on it briefly yesterday, but the main reason that she's saying this is she has put in, I believe it's $15 million of her own personal money into this campaign, into the RFK Jr. campaign as his running mate, because when you're on a ticket, you're not capped on how much you can donate to yourself. So it makes sense for RFK Jr. to bring on someone who's very, very wealthy. What she explained on that show is that she did not invest $15 million of her own money to play spoiler. She did not do that in order to make Kamala Harris president. Because remember, Kamala Harris was not at the top of the ticket a month ago. She's only been at the top of the ticket for 1 month. I believe it was the 21st when that happened. So she's looking at this pragmatically and understanding that we're not going to win. The Democrats are suing them like crazy, keeping them off the ballot. RFK Jr. has a residence in New York. Where he's living is not. He's not living in New York, but he has an apartment in New York, and he used that apartment for his to get on the ballot in New York State. And like he pays income tax in New York. His driver's license is in New York. He's living out of state, I believe, for personal reasons, health reasons for a loved one, but he is very well within his rights to claim his New York residency for his New York filing. And the Democrats sued and won, at least at the trial court stage, to kick him off the ballot. And now they're doing that around. They're going to do that around the country and use that as precedent that he lied on the form.
Wow.
So yeah, that's all been happening.
I mean, Hillary did the same thing, and she was on the ballot in like 2 weeks. Wow.
Well, that's the thing. The Democrats have spun up these PACs that are just designed to destroy RFK Jr. And now they're all coming out today, and they're on X, and they're all saying, "Oh, well, RFK Jr. Draws more from us, so our people won't go to Trump." Right? Before, like 3 days ago, they're frantically suing to keep him off the ballot, to stop him, the defenders of democracy, spending millions of dollars in lawfare to make sure that people don't have a democratic choice. Now the Democrat narrative has spun completely. So, oh no, it's actually good if he endorses Trump, and they're trying to brand him as weird. Josh, that's their.
They're still going with that one. How long are they going to ride that pony? It's just, weak sauce there all day. Are you surprised?
He is a little weird.
They're going to be like, we need RFK now. He's got to stay in.
There are elements of weirdness to RFK Jr. There was that story about how him and his friends hit a bear, and they like staged it in Central Park to make it look like a bike rider had killed a cub. That's a little weird.
It's weird. People how young was he though? What was the circumstance? Like, everybody's done something.
No, it was a couple. I believe it was just a couple years ago. I don't think it was that long.
He's a grown-ass man doing that. I got nothing there.
I'm pretty sure he was an adult. But who among us haven't staged roadkill to make it look like a bike rider has killed a bear in Central Park? No, but that's what they go to. They go to the weird. what's amazing is that Tim Walz's life story is unraveling faster than anyone could have possibly imagined.
I know. I've read things and I'm like,
lying about his service record, lying about his
yeah.
retirement rank. Now, I mean, the latest push has been to go after JD Vance, because JD Vance, as a pro-life person, has a lot of reservations about IVF, in vitro fertilization, because it requires you to create more human life than you intend to implant in a woman, right? So they'll extract 8 eggs, they'll fertilize 6 of them, and then they'll try and pick which one should have a chance at life. Pro-lifers, if you believe that life begins at conception, that's wrong. To create 6 human lives, knowing that you're only going to have one chance at actually implantation. Sometimes they'll implant more, and then through a process called selective reduction, actually have abortions. So if too many of the eggs take, then there's lots to be against.
Sure.
Not saying that people shouldn't be able to start families, but the way that process works out, if you're a pro-life person, it's fair to have reservations. Tim Walz has criticized JD Vance for his positions on IVF, and Tim Walz has said that he only has a family because of IVF. And that was the attack line. We're now learning that was a lie.
Mm-hmm. His
wife didn't have IVF. She had, I believe it's called IUI, intrauterine insemination. The difference between assisted insemination or extracting eggs to fertilize babies in test tubes, big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. No one is saying that IUI is immoral. No one's saying that. No one has ever said that. So he's lying even about that,
which is kind of weird. I mean, why would you even do that? Like, so why with all the lies? Like, it's a constant admission that everything he said has been untrue in some way. I mean, is he the perfect politician because he doesn't tell the truth, or is he the worst politician ever because he's been caught not telling the truth for so long and only people notice it now? Like, I'm not a big fan of this dude. I every time I see him get on stage, it just doesn't feel right. He's trying to placate crowds. It's like he's doing some classic old, dictator moves out there, right? Just trying to look more important than he is. And if he can't be honest about this stuff now, what's he going to be honest about later?
Yeah. I want to get back to the RFK, but you just mentioned something. We have to put it up. Saw this day, cracked up. You're saying something about him on stage just makes him feel weird.
Yeah.
This is the energy that Tim Walz is bringing to these events.
Point it out. Point it out.
Like,
once you see that, you can't unsee it.
No.
Once you see that Tim Walz is a middle-aged Midwestern version of Richard Simmons, you can't unsee it.
No. And I will say this: Richard Simmons helped a lot of people. He helped a lot of people lose weight and get exercise.
Oh, for sure.
What has Walz done?
For sure. He definitely, though, the funny part, he always came into everything with what's a PC way to call it?
Flair. He had a lot of flair.
Fruity enthusiasm. I don't like. What would you say?
He was,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he had a style, right? And when Simmons came out, that's what you were getting, right?
To be as effeminate as humanly possible. But wait, it's fine. All right. So back to the back to the RFK Jr. bit. It's looking more and more like this is a lock. He's announced that he is going to be giving a big address on the path forward, which is interesting because that is Kamala Harris's whole catchphrase.
Yeah.
So when I was setting up this live stream, I had to create a thumbnail. So I was like, what do you do? What do you do for that? I just went to Polymarket. Polymarket is where you can bet on political outcomes. And the Polymarket, when I made this, showed an 82% chance that RFK Jr. endorses Trump in the month of August. Now, just so everyone understands, if you haven't done this, Polymarket, you can bet on things. 82 cents. If that's what the shares are selling at, what that means is that you are willing to buy a yes outcome for 82 cents. And if it comes true, you get 18 cents. So these are people willing to literally bet 82 cents to make 18 cents. They bet a lot more than that, but that's per share, right? If it says 51 cents, 52 cents, it's basically coin flip odds to win. Josh, by the time that was just when I started creating the live stream. By the time I actually pushed the button like schedule, it had jumped up to 96%. I can't stress enough how significant it is that people were willing to bet 96 cents a share to win 5 cents.
Yeah.
The only time you ever see things jump up to 95, 96% is when it's a certainty, when it's either been publicly reported or coming from leaks inside these campaigns, either betting themselves or calling up their buddy saying, hey, I got a juicy tip for you. So it's since come down a little bit. It's since come down to 88% chance. But I want to just look at some of this trade volume, right? You're going to have people who buy $80. $80. That's still someone willing to bet $80 just to get back less than 10. Putting $80 on the line to win beer money?
The only way you're doing that is if it's a sure thing. Like, these people are usually pretty savvy investors that are bettors, but this is like an investment move at this point.
Yeah,
it feels certain.
You see here, these are the people trying to basically play the market, saying that, okay, I'll bet $25 on no in the chance to win $147. Right. So that's where they're like, okay, what do I have to lose? I'll spend $20 to try and win $175, like this guy up here.
Yeah.
But then you start looking at some of this other trade volume. This guy bought 2,459 yes shares
at 92 cents.
91.6 cents. So he bet $2,200 to win $2,400. So he's willing to stake $2,200 of his own money.
Wow.
To win $200.
That's insane.
Like, you're not seeing anyone in here betting hundreds or thousands of dollars on no. All of the big volume, like this guy $470 for a chance to win 30. This guy bet $50 for a chance to win $3. This guy right here, $5,000 for a chance to win $230 profit. I mean, this is serious movement. And again, this only really happens not when there's rumors. This happens when there is leaking or official announcements.
Yeah.
That's the only time it is. And just to point out, back on, when was this? This was August 20th. It was 7 cents a share. So just, this is just one day. This movement right here, it's gone from 7 cents to now sitting at 88 cents, peaked at 96 cents in one day. That tells you that it's more than just a rumor of what we think he's going to say. It's leaking out.
Unless, Kennedy has, put a bunch of money in on this, which I don't think he has. I mean, that was the only person that could, have the true insider information, right? Like, corner the market on yourself. It's like that bad boxer bet, right? Take a dive in the third. And I just don't see that happening. I see this being people actually thinking, yes, this is about to happen. I mean, I'm seeing it all over social, the betting market saying it's going to happen. I mean, even Kennedy's running mates pretty much saying it's going to happen.
381 grand have just been bet on this line. So one of the reasons that federal regulators don't like political betting is because it's very easy to have insider information and to make a lot of money on stuff like this.
Sure.
So the reason that they've shut down Predict It and they're trying to shut down others is because they're concerned that this is just going to be extremely profitable, or people could release statements just to try and swing markets to make money.
Yeah.
Businesses, I didn't even think about this. Businesses wanting to hedge. If the business believes that they're going to lose money if one person wins, they could bet against it and hedge, or they could bet for it to hedge. Like it's obviously people have thought about this a lot. I don't do this anymore because unless you have inside knowledge, it's so easy to get caught up on the rumors and thinking you're smarter than you might actually be and lose a lot of money. I made a lot of money in 2016 doing this, lost it all in 2020.
You let it ride, man. Well, that's what happens when you let it ride. You took a gamble and you lost. It happens sometimes.
But when you have confidence in it, right? when you have confidence. Look at the 2024 forecast. Donald Trump is sitting at 52 cents a share. Now, that's essentially 50-50 odds. It's essentially coin flip odds. But Kamala Harris is at 46 cents a share. She was sitting at 58 cents just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So, like, if I was confident in Kamala Harris, right, and I had bought in at 56 cents a share, let's just say, you're not going to see me sell and lose 10 cents a share if I have confidence in it, right? Because the only way to buy a Trump win is for someone to sell a Trump loss, right? So in order to buy a share and say, I believe Trump is going to win, someone has to sell you that share, which inherently means they don't think Trump's going to win, or they're just trying to dump it. They bought it low. They're trying to sell it high, right? In order to buy it, you need to have a seller, and the seller implicitly has to not have confidence in that stake. So the only way that Trump can rise is for people to lose confidence in Kamala Harris. It can't be both sides are equally confident. It's not how the market works. There can be slight discrepancies. So like if you look down here, let's see. Oh, I don't have my account open. I don't have money in here, but I have an account open. Sometimes Donald Trump, yes, can be a little bit more expensive than Kamala Harris, no. And that usually takes into account the slim possibility of a third party winning. So sometimes there can be a little bit of a difference, but generally, in order to buy, someone needs to sell the opposing stake.
Jeez. That's an interesting way to look at elections, man, because people will, they talk with their money. Right?
Yeah.
Vote with your feet, talk with your money on the betting markets. And I mean, don't be fooled, though. It's still not a guarantee here, folks. You got to get out and vote.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Share this program so people realize that you need to go out and vote.
Like, comment, share. Yeah. We're on X. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. Appreciate the support. It really does look like RFK Jr. is going to come out and not just withdraw from the race. And you can't blame him. He's tried. I mean, there was one time where I think Donald Trump called him a leftist, but for most of this campaign, you haven't seen a lot of friendly fire from Donald Trump to RFK Jr. or vice versa. You haven't seen a ton of things said that are impossible to walk back from. And I think what it reminds me of is 2016 with Ted Cruz and Donald Trump through most of the primary. Ted Cruz refused to go after Trump for most of the primary and only started to when it became obvious it was either Trump, Rubio, or Cruz. You have to. You can't win without it. It seems that RFK Jr. has at least understood that this is a possibility. Otherwise, he would have burned the bridge, right? He would have said things that you can't walk back from.
And talk about putting country before person. And think about the deal that didn't get made with the Dems, right? I mean, this could have been a move where they talked with him, right? You want to talk about a family that's had deep roots in the Democratic Party for a long time, right? They missed a opportunity with a legacy family member. And I don't know if they're kicking themselves in the ass on this one yet or not, but now they've got somebody that from that liberal legacy family to start endorsing him. If that's the case, man, that carries a kind of weight that they probably weren't anticipating. Like, this could be a real surprise for them. This might be a big wake-up call.
And I mean, let's look at some polls. I like looking at polls. Polls have been looking for very good for Trump.
Yeah, I'm on 270 to win now with just the latest polling map, and they've got Trump sitting at 219 electoral votes. If the election is held today,
the settled, because obviously, if something's 52, if he's winning by 1 or 2% in a state, you can't call it, right? But like for RCP poll average, let's go ahead and put it up. Between Trump and Harris, Donald Trump leading in Arizona, leading in Nevada, leading in Pennsylvania, practically tied. Leading in North Carolina, leading in Georgia.
Like it last week.
If this holds, Donald Trump is president, right? I mean, that's what this means. And we know that the polling typically undercounts Donald Trump's support. In 2016 and 2020, they have overestimated the Democrat support by a couple percent.
Mhm.
So if that kind of polling mistake holds true now, Donald Trump leading by 1 point in a state would conceivably turn into Trump winning by 2 or 3%.
Mhm.
Now, you never know with ballot harvesting and all the shenanigans that they like to do. Ballot harvesting polls can never really account for ballot harvesting because when you're
Yeah.
polling a likely voter, that likely voter has 1 vote. You know who also has 1 vote? The guy who used to live next door never changed his voter registration. The envelope was delivered to his mailbox, and the new people there are voting on his behalf, right?
Yeah.
So a likely voter who's willing to crawl over broken glass to vote for Trump is basically canceled out if his neighbor didn't cancel his voter registration and the new neighbor is voting on his behalf. So that really can't get taken into account in polls because polls measure people, not ballots.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Because you can't account for, the theft of a ballot, right? Essentially, it was what's happening there. I mean, you can't account for it; just doesn't exist. I'm looking at the poly market odds right now, and they've got 287 electoral votes going to Donald Trump right now.
Yes, that's people willing to bet
unbelievable. Yeah, which we were just covering before, and it's like, man, is that more accurate than everything else?
Yes. Well,
it has to be.
You mentioned Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't really want to put it up because it crashes my screen, but you said Colorado had like 95 cents for a share for Democrats.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That means it's going to go, right? That is much more solid than a state showing that 52% are betting Trump, 48% are betting Harris, because that's still coin flip odds, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's 48% or 52%, that's basically you're in double your money territory. So I don't weight it too heavily whether it's 51 versus 53. It's still basically coin flip odds. Once you start getting 55 to 60%, that's where you really start seeing this.
The movement start happening on these bets. It's pretty wild, man. It's not a shoo-in for anybody. It's not a shoo-in.
I want to see if we can find. Let's see how can I find the 5-way national polls. Here we go. Okay. This is why Democrats should be terrified.
Where's this at?
Get rid of this ad.
Arizona, Nevada.
Okay. So these are just national polls, right? Economist, YouGov. Harris 46, Trump 43, Kennedy 3. A Kennedy endorsement. Kennedy endorsement, you won't get every Kennedy voter. No endorsement ever does.
Maybe
right?
Split that 50-50.
But it is not a coincidence that Kamala Harris in this poll is only leading by 3 because 3% of the electorate is choosing RFK Jr. Right. Yeah. So all of a sudden that goes from Kamala Harris being up 3 with an RFK Jr. endorsement. It becomes Donald Trump down by 1, down by 2.
Yeah. With an endorsement from a legacy family.
Entirely possible well within the margin of error. And then you start looking at this poll and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a Democrat +5 poll, right? Yeah. Where it's completely cooked. Here, CBS News, Harris 49, Trump 47, Kennedy 2. Again, it's the exact margin, right?
They've got to be panicking at this point. I mean, they've got to like Chicken Little in the sky is falling moments.
ABC News, Washington Post, Kamala Harris 47, Trump 44, Kennedy 5. That's where you get half of Kennedy's voters, and it flips this poll. And this poll is already overweighted towards Democrats, right? So that's why this is so significant. You look at Emerson, 4 is the margin. You look at Fox News, it's a tie ball game, but Kennedy has 6.
6, yeah.
Right? NPR Marist says Harris is winning by 3, but Kennedy has 5.
Man, there
Trump
were a lot
losing
of
by 2, but Kennedy has 7. That's where you start looking at these and start saying, okay, again, you won't get all of them, but an RFK endorsement and RFK acting as like a surrogate would do wonders towards erasing Kamala Harris's polling gap. Listen, I'm excited. I thought he could have been a VP candidate.
I thought it would probably happen. I mean, it would have made a lot of sense. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. And you got to remember, there's going to be another election cycle coming up right after this one, right? And Trump can't be in there. So now you got to start tapping the next person to start carrying on the mantle, right? They're starting to finally think beyond an election, right? Which is what the Republicans had to do about 40 years ago, right? They could only see what was right in front of their face, while Democrats and liberals were just running around planning out elections 20 years in the future, right? We don't have this one, but we'll get the next one. And that's just a foresight that the Republicans really haven't had. And I think they're starting to see it. There's some, like, this is really incredible political moves by Kennedy and Trump here by doing this. I mean, this is a huge missed opportunity for the Democrats, because imagine if they were the ones that were picking up that 3% in a really tight race. If they hadn't spent their time trying to destroy Kennedy, maybe he had played ball with them.
Yeah. And this is something that Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s running mate, did say in that interview. It didn't pull it off because it's a very long interview. She said the option to stay in, they wanted to create an actual third party and hopefully build it in this election and then run more seriously in the next election, get into that 10, 20% range with infrastructure behind it. And her fear was a Kamala Harris win would make a third party run impossible because of what she'd do to the country, right?
Yeah.
So if your goal is to actually fix problems, you're in it just to solve problems, then it makes complete sense to team up with Trump and try and at least guide him in one direction on policy. Donald Trump Jr. was on Glenn Beck's show today talking about what kind of roles RFK Jr. could have in a Trump administration. Let's play that clip.
Endorsement from RFK. Do you think that's coming?
Listen, I hope so. I think RFK, I think he's a smart guy. I think he's actually got very good views on certain things. I think there's some other things, we're going to disagree with him on. But I think it shows sort of a unity against, literally, you mentioned it before I hopped on, about the communism that we are up against. It's not hyperbole anymore. It's not like, they're just a little bit more left than us. It's not, these people, she's talking about, we want to set up price fixing, and we want to set up this, and we're going to be auditing businesses, and we're going to take away your business, and we're going to take away your children if we, can't do, drive-through, transgender surgeries for minors without parental consent.
Right.
They've lost their minds. And so, I love the idea. I love the idea of, giving him, some sort of role in some sort of, major, three-letter entity or whatever it may be, and let him blow it up. I think that's what we need. And so I think that kind of unity, even where there may be certain disagreements on certain things, I think he could be a really great asset for that. I think he could bring people together, and I think it shows a strong, a strong opposition to what we are up against. Which,
I mean, we said it before: NIH, three-letter agency, CIA, finally get to the bottom of who killed his father and uncle.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
People are saying attorney general. I'm sorry, living through Jeff Sessions, you need to have an attorney general who is with you. An attorney general can't be a liberal Democrat, but there are a lot of things that could be. I would love to see Donald Trump roll out some of his preferred cabinet picks. Might be early to do it, but considering that Kamala Harris isn't saying anything, I'd love for him to come out and say what role he wants Tulsi Gabbard to have in his administration.
Right.
Start
what he wants the jobs.
Saying, hey, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to get you, but we're going to get her something. She's going to be in the administration. RFK Jr. in the administration. Apparently, he has offered something to Elon Musk. Whether Elon Musk would give up running his companies for an actual paid position, probably not. But Elon Musk, in true Elon Musk fashion, posted this: I am willing to serve Department of Government Efficiency, of course, acronym Doge. Of course, the meme, the dog meme. So you start putting together this, and the goal is to appeal to the wide range. We know that Donald Trump is tight. He is good on the policies that we care about. I wish he would be more pro-gun than he is. His son is very an avid hunter, avid sportsman, avid shooter. He has Trump's ear. I'm very happy that Donald Trump did not make the turn that happens so often after an attempted assassination attempt, which is to ban the gun that the leftists used to try and kill him. But we know he's solid on everything that really matters. Any other ideas of who you think he could bring in to make waves?
I knew Musk would probably be on there. I mean, he'd have to start reaching over to the other side of the aisle a little bit here, but people that are far more moderate. Because here's the play, right? They're after that moderate vote. We've shown that those people in the middle can be really, really important, right? I mean, the difference in the Colorado election and what he's pulling in is if, just half of those people were and the others going for Kennedy, like it makes Colorado a tighter race. So it makes me excited down the line that he's moved that. But the people to add to that, I mean, who would you want in charge of school lunches? And, who do you want in charge of the Department of Energy?
Not Michelle.
Right.
Not Michelle Obama.
So, the DOE, maybe he actually starts picking some billionaires out there who know how to run businesses, right? Not a bunch of leftist shills who are out there just trying to make things happen for the existential crisis that everything is out there. Right. I want to see some of those business leaders to be picked out there.
And he's got to pick loyalists because
that's the other thing. Yeah.
We saw the narrative with, they're going to 25th Amendment Trump. You can't just pick who the establishment tells you to pick. You have to have a couple people in there.
Yeah. I've got to
protect against that.
So I'm watching Trump right before we come on air, and he starts to almost verbatim say the things that you said yesterday about how he would have, if he had known that Hillary had done the things she would have done, I would have put her in jail if he had a time machine.
Yeah.
Right. He's starting to say a lot of the right things that are starting to get out there to make people realize what had happened to him. And I think he's also, it's not a veiled threat, but it's saying, I'm coming. Yeah. Right. I'm coming. So that is why this election will probably be the dirtiest one we'll ever see, because there's so many people now that are, facing the quote unquote political noose.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
they thought they were facing that in 2016, the lock her up chance. They thought they were facing that. And Donald Trump, for all of his faults, for all of his flaws, for all of his braggadocious ways, right? He was extremely gracious in victory because he didn't do what would have been easy to do. Something that I would have wanted him to do, because the case against Hillary Clinton was so strong.
Oh, yeah.
So strong. Not just that they did it, but that she knew better, that she had received the training on how and what she can and cannot do. And she had deliberately authorized, like they had her dead to rights telling her cleaning lady to go into the skiff, which is the secure facility in her home to receive confidential information, classified information. They have her dead to rights telling her cleaning lady to go into the skiff to retrieve something surrounded by classified information. You can't let a cleaning lady into a skiff. Sorry, you're going to have to clean that yourself. And I believe that she wasn't a U.S. citizen. It was even worse. So they had her dead to rights. Trump didn't want to do that. He wanted to try and bring the country together. And you're right. What he didn't know, and no one could have known, is just how vengeful Democrats would be trying to use lawfare against him. Every minute of every day of his administration was met with some bogus scandal trying to remove him from office. So I'm not surprised that if he knew then what he knows now, he wouldn't have done that.
You know what I do? I would put Gary Sinise in charge of the VA. Like, talk about being able to make some quick change with somebody who cares.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would start throwing those names out there. Celebrities that have and do have a conservative mindset. Right. Because one of the things that you have to do culturally now is that the left has done such a good job of trying to paint conservatism as being evil that it's worked, right? People just assume that it is, but they don't realize how good conservatism truly is, right? Yeah. It's the things that keeps the oil going. It's the things that keep, more liberties in your pocket, right? More money for you to spend, more things for you to have, choice, right? Fair elections. And I really want this to be a fair election.
Jobs. I mean,
jobs.
We're not talking about a ton today, but just came out today that the estimates from the government for job creation from March 2023 to March 2024 overestimated the number of jobs created by 818,000. They revised the jobs number for a 12-month period down 818,000. Here's from Politico. U.S. jobs total will likely be revised down by 818,000 as Trump cries fraud.
Yeah.
A month ago, 2 months ago, the narrative from the Biden administration, Biden campaign, was that the economy is doing good.
Yes.
People just don't recognize it yet. And if we only had a chance to explain it to them, they'd see how much better off they are.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the campaign message was, we just need to gaslight the American people into thinking they have it better off than they do. Yeah. Which is funny because there's the left typically controls Hollywood, controls the media, controls all the mechanisms that you get information out. Sure. They tried for 4 years to gaslight us into thinking that's good. Now it's Kamala Harris promising to fix everything. Well, what is she promising to fix? Because 30 days ago, nothing was broken.
Yeah.
Everything was rosy.
I mean, do you remember when they kept telling us we're not in recession? The jobs market, the jobs are good. We're not in recession. Jobs are good. 134,000 new jobs added. We've talked about it on the show before. And we sat here always saying, I don't think these numbers are real. People aren't feeling these numbers. And people told us we were liars for saying such a thing. How could you dispute the numbers coming out of the Fed like that?
Yeah.
We're not there.
And every month they revise the previous month down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I bet you that's going to add up to a lot. And now this revision down 818,000 jobs.
Which
and then when you actually
months of gains.
Yes. And when you actually look at, I'm going to see if I can get the chart. There. When you actually look at the chart for where these jobs are coming from, before you factor in the fakeness of it, almost all of the jobs that were created have gone to foreign-born people. Here is the graph. Change in employment since October 2019. Native-born workers, a net decline by 1.3 million. Foreign-born, a net increase in 3 million. Now this isn't all under Biden. There are other charts. If I could have more time, I'd find them. But under Biden, it's stark, right?
Yeah.
More jobs going to foreign-born workers. Now, not all of them are illegal immigrants. Not all of them are even immigrants. Some of them can be Americans who weren't born in this country, and that's fine. But overall, we know that every illegal immigrant who is being paroled by the Biden administration is receiving work permits.
Yeah.
So we know that those jobs are being reported. So a huge chunk of this foreign-born worker employment is going to illegal aliens who have been paroled and given work permits. So it's just, you can't gaslight that away. You can't gaslight it away.
Connected to this, I have a friend who's trying to get her daughter in to take tests for her driver's test, and they kept scheduling it and rescheduling it. And finally she went down there with her daughter. And the whole reason they had to keep rescheduling is that long lines of illegal immigrants that are lining up to get driver's licenses. Yeah. And they're overwhelming the system. But that driver's license starts to do things for you, right?
Yeah.
It starts you on your path to a work permit. And then right outside, there's those tables that say register to vote.
Yeah. There's also a lot of states have motor voter, which the minute you get a driver's license, you are automatically registered to vote unless you tell them not to. That is a huge avenue for fraud. Listen, the DMV sucks. We all hate the DMV. But there's really 2 days that are the worst: the beginning of the month and the end of the month. Right? The first couple days of the month, the last 2 days of the month, because those are people who are trying to avoid getting fined for something or just now have an opportunity to do something. Other than that, the DMV should be pretty steady as people turn 16, 17, 18, they're there, right? As people move in, they're there. A lot of the stuff for established drivers nowadays, at least in Texas, can be done online. I haven't gone into the DMV since I first moved here. The one thing they can't account for, though, is these waves of illegal immigrants coming in who all of a sudden now want driver's licenses. And the DMV, it sucks. It always sucks. but they put DMV locations where they know population centers are going to be, right? You look at some of these towns in Ohio, that a town of 20,000, all of a sudden they just got 10,000 migrants. You just increase the population of the town by 50% of people who don't even speak English.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think was going to happen? It's the DMV. What's happening at the DMV is a microcosm for everything. It's happening in hospitals, happening in schools. Class sizes are now going up. And it's even worse because it's not like everyone coming across the border is even just Mexican or Central American anymore, where you can say, okay, well, we'll hire a Spanish teacher. Some of these classes have 10 different languages being spoken in them. It's impossible to do anything. So it really is happening across the board. It's happening across the board.
And people are frustrated, Max. I talked to folks around town, business owners, like it's gotten to the point now where they're just so frustrated. They feel like that there's nothing else they can lose, right? The inflation has made business hard. The taxes are mowing them down. The city's asking for even more. Nobody's coming in the front door of businesses because there's no jobs. There's nobody who has the kind of disposable income to go get cool things, work out, go anywhere, right? At what point do people just start saying enough is enough? Because if government doesn't do what government's required to do, who's going to start taking that stuff into their own hands? I never wanted to get there, but there's such frustration that, I mean, it's a powder keg. Everybody's sitting on something. It's waiting. And I'm worried.
Yeah. Which I think that sense is why a lot of people are going to vote for Trump. They might not be willing to tell their friends about. They might not be willing to tell a random stranger on the phone for a pollster that they have no idea who they are. Might not be willing to tell them. But people understand what the line that I really want Trump to use is a line that someone else at the RNC convention used, and I thought it was brilliant. And Trump should make it a part of every single campaign rally that he has. You don't have to imagine what I can do, how I can help your family, how I can help advance your careers, how I can bring stability, right? You don't have to imagine that. You just have to remember when I did it. That's what Trump's campaign message should be. I'm not asking you to close your eyes and imagine how I can help your family. I just want you to close your eyes and remember what it was like when I did. And that, to me, I think would resonate a ton, especially when you're looking at the voters that Trump needs to make the most ground on, suburban voters, suburban women voters. He's not asking them to accept some fantasy. He's just asking them to remember.
Powerful statement. Because when you go back and remember, I mean, everybody had toilet paper before the COVID thing hit. Everybody had, a gym membership. Everybody went out and did things. How many sectors of our economy have not recovered because of the false narrative of COVID?
Yeah.
I mean, big stores, mom and pops, anybody that had any restaurant that was barely running on a 1% margin, right? Who didn't have takeout services, you died. They took everything away from you, right? That's what Democrats gave you. Yeah,
no, it's true. You want to know something else that happened to me today?
What?
You were watching the Trump rally before, right?
Yeah.
Did you see how he entered?
No, I missed that part.
Well, let's play this clip. A low altitude flyby.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I watched that, Josh, and I don't cry. I'm not a super emotional person, but I actually got a little teary-eyed because this is the first outdoor rally that he's doing since he was shot in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Wow. And they have him up there with bulletproof glass. And you see this, and I feel it all those emotions, because remember, we did a show on it, and I was actually in VR doing some work. I do work in VR with a little keyboard just to drown out distractions. Yeah. It was like you had woken me up from the deepest sleep when I finally got that text message. It was completely jarring.
Yeah.
You see this, and all these emotions come back, but then you realize that the media, they dropped this story completely. Like, when was the last time you heard anyone in the mainstream media talking about the fact that Donald Trump took a bullet to the side of the head? The news cycle for Will Smith slapping. Remember the Will Smith slap? That news cycle of him slapping Chris Rock lasted longer than Donald Trump taking a bullet to the side of his head.
Makes you wonder what all those search engines are doing.
Yeah. But that, to me, it's just crazy, because, if Kamala Harris, God forbid, she had taken a bullet to the side of the head and survived, they never would let you hear the end of it. And she would have probably advanced more gun control.
And she would be hailed as a hero for surviving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's her job to make, like, she's doing this for all Americans, right? Everybody who wants a safe place to live. There's nothing but genuine that's come out of this election on the Democrat side at all. It's empty.
And last night, I mean, you talk about no one really talking about his assassination attempt that he survived. Last night, Barack Obama gave his big speech, right? And I kept waiting for the part where Barack Obama, as a president, as someone who has had to deal with threats on his life, as someone who has had to live with Secret Service protection for well over a decade now, almost 2 decades. I was waiting for him to express condolences or to offer well wishes, or to say that this violence has no place in our society. Instead, from Barack Obama, we got this.
Childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
Now, for everyone who's listening to the audio podcast, which if you haven't already subscribed, I highly recommend that you do so.
Yes.
Barack Obama just talked about crowd sizes, but he made the gesture with his hand to let everyone know he was actually talking about Donald Trump's penis, and suggesting that Donald Trump has insecurities about the length of his manhood. That and the audience reacted accordingly.
Yeah, it's a little low.
Where is the outrage from the media? Because when Donald Trump says anything about anyone on the left, they say, "Oh, he's not talking policy. He's just resorting to personal attacks."
Yeah.
Where is the outrage? Now, I mean, because that's what they're offering. I keep tuning into the DNC and waiting to see all that joy that they're talking about.
Yet to see it.
The path forward that they're talking about. And all I see is anti-Trump hatred, is talking about revenge. And I tune into Barack Obama, see what's he have to say. And he makes fun of Donald Trump's penis.
Talk about being beneath the presidency.
Yes, but also based on the rumors that Barack Obama has about him, maybe that is a topic he is intimately comfortable with talking about.
I don't think it has a place in politics. I don't think you're on
not a place in politics. But according to the rumors, it does have a place in his social life.
Interesting. There's a lot going on in his social life that I'm sure none of us are aware of. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out Mike or Michelle. I'm still on the fence.
Yeah, we lost that. We lost the when they go low, we go high. That's gone.
Yeah.
Right now, this DNC is not the DNC of people who think they are ahead. Yesterday, Kamala Harris wasn't even there.
I know.
She didn't even show up. She did a rally in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Which, fine, but whatever. But she wouldn't do that rally if she believed the New York Times Siena poll that says she's winning by 4. People don't skip. Presidential candidates don't skip one night of their convention to go have a rally in a state where the liberal pollsters say you're winning by 4. Now that can wait until the day after your rally, after your convention.
There's just too much of a potential bump in your polls by going to your own rally and being there with your troops and showing that you support, right? When your general's not with the troops, like there's a problem, right? Yeah. They're not confident in however they're waging this battle. And I thought it was another one of those low moments. Who would have a virtual roll call so you could virtually accept your nomination?
Yeah,
and
they
they're
did the
in the middle
virtual roll call, and then they had this party where let's pretend we're doing it now, and let's bring Lil Jon down, and let's have a DJ. They did it all virtually. That was not the roll call. There are people making fun of the Republicans roll call. Republicans roll call was an actual roll call where they actually said what they're doing, and someone's down there jotting it down to make sure they got the tally. This was just pretend land yesterday. No, I'm not seeing anything from the DNC. Listen, in 2016, I watched the DNC. I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was nervous. DNC made me nervous in 2016. 2020, I watched the DNC, and despite all of the ridiculousness from it, like, remember there was one part where they put a bunch of people on screen, and they didn't have enough people to put on screen, so they just repeated people multiple times to fill up space. That was embarrassing, but still, you could look at it and you say, okay, actually, Democrats are coming out of this more unified. I'm not getting the vibes this time. Maybe it's the Hamas protesters trying to kill them all right outside. Maybe that might be doing it. Maybe it's the fact that they're not actually nominating someone who the American people elected. I mean, the roll call is people elected to represent their state. Yeah. Standing up and saying, this is who the voters wanted me to vote for. Right? That's what the roll call is. Like, I here represent the state of Texas. On behalf of the voters of Texas, I'm proud to cast the ballots for the person they chose. That's not the case here. It's inside baseball. It is smoke-filled rooms going on. Yeah.
And have you noticed they stopped kind of playing the race card, first black woman vice president? I mean, that's starting to go to the wayside all of a sudden. Like, it's quietly disappearing. It's not coming back up. Not even in the socials.
I have seen a lot of man on the street interviews. Now, man on the street interviews can be selectively edited to only pick the people that they want you to see. That's fine. But every conservative guy who's doing man on the street interviews, even Don Lemon was doing man on the street interviews in Atlantic City. And he's coming across black voters who are saying that Kamala Harris isn't really black, or that she only says this because she wants their vote. And as soon as they vote, she'll go back to being the first Asian president, and she'll care about that community. That resonated. Right. Trump, that comment from Trump resonated. Yeah, it pissed a lot of people off, but those people were going to be pissed off no matter what he said.
And there was another, like, it was a rapper podcast where they got on, and the guy's like, I'm all team red, right? Trump's a hardcore. They use words I can't repeat, right? But he's a hardcore dude. And they're like, he's for real because they shot him. He's been convicted. They want to put him in jail. And they were saying things like, he's just like the rest of us. Now, that's something that is never, like, there's never been people out there that have had any way to identify with Trump. And the Dems pretty much handed it to him to say this is what he's done, right? I mean, they've really been shooting themselves in the foot. There's just not excitement. There's no cohesion like there's been in the past. The only cohesion is whoever's running the party, right, is just putting stuff out there, and the messaging is all the same, right? That's still cohesive, but you're not feeling the excitement. When you see Chuck Schumer goes, we're all here for Kamala Harris.
Clap. You can clap now. Yeah.
Right. Even the last night, it was like last night or the night before when he came up for his speech. It was the exact same thing. I mean, people just standing there going, oh, yeah, that's right. I can't stand Chucky. I mean, I probably should like him. He's probably a great guy in private at a dinner. But I don't want to hang out with Chucky Schumer anytime soon.
Yeah, no. Well, so almost done.
Are you nervous for the election?
No, I'm not nervous.
Okay.
I mean, it can go either way.
Yeah.
I am not nervous. Like, I am not, like, in 2016, I was confident that Trump could win. I still went out and bought a bunch of unfinished AR-15 lowers.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Just in case, right? I'm going to hedge those bets, right? I'm not hedging the bets right now. Like, I'm not running out and buying ammunition. I'm not, like, doing the things that conservatives do to hedge bets. I am buying more survival food, which, by the way, if anyone wants to help support our show, let me get the actual link, because a lot of people are watching on Twitter where they don't have access to it. If you want to stock up on survival food, it's an excellent time to do it. And if you want to help support the show, you can do so by going to prepsos.com, prepsos.com. And if you use promo code MAX, it's promo code MAX because I used it before we teamed up, Josh, but promo code MAX will get you 5% off your order, and we'll get a little bit of a commission so you can help the show. Prepsos.com, promo code MAX, 5% off. Get that survival food, because I mean, there's reporting in the news today about heightened nuclear war tensions. Always a good idea. Always a good idea to get that.
Yeah, it makes me nervous. Like for this election, I'm nervous for what happens after the outcome, no matter which way it breaks, right? Because nobody's got faith in the other side in this one. Like everybody will think that the other side has wronged the other in this election. And it's the people's mentality that starts to scare me, right? Because when you start doing that, you're going to get all these this tribal mentality around you. Yeah. Things change, man. And it doesn't take much to make permanent, serious change in the way we live. So don't be dumb, y'all. I'm just saying that. Don't be too dumb.
Yeah.
But it makes me nervous. So get your survival food, get your training, your stuff down the road. We'll talk about more with training. So
yeah, we're gonna be making an announcement on training hopefully in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Ways that you can get prepared, help your family.
Yeah.
Really good options.
Stay tuned for that stuff. Well, it's almost over, man. We got these last 4 minutes here. Anything else that's jumping out at you right now?
I need to respond to something that I didn't think I would have to respond to. This is last night, a bunch of people started reposting old videos I've done on Joe Oltmann. Anyone doesn't know, I used to be on the Conservative Daily Podcast. We had a big falling out, branched off, did my own thing. People are starting to post old videos about that. And I was like, what's that all about? It turns out that Jovan Pulitzer, aka Jeffrey Filiaw, it's always so hard to know what name he goes by. He's decided to put my name in his effing mouth to take that Will Smith, Chris Rock bit here. And he posted last night, busted. First, his attorney stated in deposition the call was not real. And now his ex-sidekick finally tells the truth about the Antifa Coomer call infiltration. OMG, this is why Joe Oltmann flees deposition and court. Shameful. Think of all who got sued over this bogus story. Wow. And what he's responding to is the fact that I did a deposition. I think it's a little bit disingenuous. First of all, I'm not an ex-sidekick. I founded that podcast.
Yeah.
Josh helped me run it. And then Joe came on under a pseudonym as a guest.
Yeah.
I was a partner. Yeah, I still am a part owner in the business. Not psychic, but whatever. Not gonna be all Trump and be mad about that. But the finally tells the truth. I did this deposition November 2022, and that's not what I said in the deposition. They asked me, "Do you know anything about this guy? What's his name? Joey Camp." And I told him I have no personal knowledge about him. All I've ever heard is what people have told me about him. I've never met him, know nothing about him. And all I told them was that Joe does sometimes have a history of putting himself in stories, saying he was there and he wasn't there. So that's something that was always a little weird. But I never said anything about this. This is all selectively edited.
Yeah.
And when I was answering this question, did you ever consider the possibility that it was actually Mr. Camp or someone else on the call? I wasn't responding to Mr. Camp. I'd already say I have no idea anything about him. I was just saying he has a habit of putting himself in other people's stories sometimes, which if you know him, sometimes that happens. But pretty crazy that people are dragging this up. And the reason they're now sharing my old videos is to tell Jovan that no, I'm not actually with Joe anymore. We had a pretty harsh falling out. I mean, you remember you were on some of those calls. You got blowback for being on some of those early shows with me. I got very pissed that I had produced a whole show, and with clips, with cuts, with pictures, with source material. And they, for the first time in 8 years, told me, no, you're not allowed to do that. People who I didn't realize were my boss saying, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then I quit, and
It's
it got a
shocking.
little heated. Listen, it might get less heated in the future. Who knows?
Yeah.
Frankly, I personally believe that the fight is on the left, not the right. So that the more that people on the right fight each other, the worse off we're all going to be in the country. Maybe there's a time where we can do something together in the future. Who knows? But yeah, just wanted to respond to that because
it was a fun time back in the day when it first started.
Yeah,
and it was taken off. Like that was one of the best in my career. That was a really good time. It really was.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it. I miss
it was a lot of fun. But yeah, who knows? Maybe in the future, one day. He's not itching to do anything together. But who knows? I mean, you're seeing him out and about. You gotta let me know if you run into him.
If I do,
What do you run into his car the other day?
No. I just go to the gun store that he might have open because it's I like the store.
Yeah.
I like the store.
Listen, technically, I think I own like a little sliver of that. I think I own like one floor tile worth of space.
If you want to go take a picture before you like,
I always joke that if I own one floor tile of space, it will probably be the floor tile that has no merchandise on it.
Yeah, the one they threw out.
We
threw your tile away, bro. Sorry.
Actually, your part ownership is actually the lavatory. It's the bathroom. Well, listen,
it'd be funny.
We've had falling outs and all that, but if you were to ask me who do I have a problem with more, Joe Oltmann or Jovan Pulitzer, Jeffrey Filial, the answer is obviously the latter.
Because at least Joe could make sense on some stuff. So
and
to be
Jovan,
with.
I'll never forgive Jovan for going on that show. What was it? The Curse of Oak Island, and presenting a sword which seems to have been purchased on eBay and presenting it as a Greco-Roman relic.
He really did.
Yeah. There's a history of Jovan.
Provenance. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a history of Jovan. I mean, his detractors will call him a failed treasure hunter. I don't know if that's completely fair, even though it probably technically accurate. He was on a very popular show, Curse of Oak Island, and he was on as a guest. These are people who are up in, I believe it's Canada, who are trying to dig into this island where they're convinced the Romans buried a bunch of treasure. And I don't know whether it's all made for TV or if it's real, but on the TV show, they're unearthing things that they shouldn't be finding just on this random island off the coast of Canada. The theory is that other civilizations have gone there, dug a big tunnel to hide their stuff. Sea level rise or whatever has flooded it, all got buried, and they think it's all down there. So they're finding coins and things. But I'll never forgive Jovan Pulitzer for going on that show and presenting a sword that he claimed to be evidence, but which people who are more knowledgeable about me looked at it and said, actually, I think you can buy the same one on Amazon, on eBay right now.
Right. It's called a reproduction. It's stainless steel somehow, and it's been injection molded steel.
Yeah, it's like since he's a very litigious man.
I've heard.
So let's just make sure we put this on screen. This is my reporting is simply what I've read others allege, which is
I never heard of the thing.
Jovan Pulitzer alleges Roman sword was found off Oak Island several decades ago. Where's the eBay?
I can't believe it. I mean, it doesn't do much for you if you lie about stuff like that. If allegedly, whatever you want to throw in there.
He's probably the most litigious person I've ever met. He would come on our show, and then he would demand that we not air the episode because he owned the copyright. I mean, this is like you don't need to be a lawyer to understand that Jovan doesn't know what he's talking about at all. Like, he would come on our show, he would do a segment, he would send us things to use in the segment, right? We'd use them, fine. And then we would bring other people on, use the same images that he had sent over, And he'd say, "Oh, that's my copyright. You can't use that." He sent them over to us, right?
Yeah.
So when you send them over to someone and you say, "I want them on air," claiming that actually I own the copyright and no one can see them, it's rough.
It's
right?
a stretch.
Yeah,
Like
it's a stretch.
you've offered them up, and then
He didn't send them to me. He sent them to other people. But that argument always, that always made me a little weirded out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
It's
you can look it up. You can look it up. People who know a lot more about this than
No,
me
they're not going to waste any more time on it.
have suggested that the sword he thought was actually a Greco-Roman kind of artifact was actually an eBay knockoff.
It's been my experience that people that are true treasure hunters know their history and their items better than most historians, because that's what they do, right? That's what they do. So just my 2 cents there. It's still going to be a tight election game. You've got to remember you got to get out there. You got to get your people motivated. You got to get your family out. If you know a Republican or a conservative that's one of those never Trumpers, you got to start telling them they need to watch the show so they can start figuring that part out. There's no such thing as voting Democrat this time.
If this is coming to pass, which is that RFK Jr. is going to endorse Trump, we all know someone in our life who is an RFK Jr. supporter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's back up to 96 cents a share, so it's happening. Our homework is to, after this comes down, to talk to one of those RFK Jr. supporters and explain to him why it's in their best interest now to cast their ballot for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's our homework. Well, that's it for this edition of the podcast. If this is your first time watching, we go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A little different this week because the DNC, but we're on X, we're on Rumble, Right Guys Podcast, we're on YouTube, Right Guys Podcast. We also have the audio edition, which is very good. Please sign up for that, subscribe to that, so you can listen to the podcast as you're driving, commuting, or whatnot. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.